with a seemingly uninspiring and with up week 2 seemingly in the books, it was safe to say that it seemed as though there were a ton of truly boring but yet surprisingly decent matchups, culminating in a game in which I seen and heard a lot of analysts really overreact, even to the point that it disgusted me. Want to find out what games those were and how Tune Up Week 2 went? I'll have the results for you on Tune Up Week 2 on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you gabbing with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And guys, I don't have any comments to report at the moment because I neglected to give you guys a follow-up show last week as well as giving you guys a preview.
Stupid! You fucking idiot. Dumb shit! Dumb shit!
I know. Brad, I know you was out there giving me a gab out and whatnot, wanting to know where the show was, but unfortunately I didn't have the week 1 analysis show as well as the week 2 look ahead. But in like fashion, Brad was hitting me up wanting to know where it was. Appreciate you, buddy. Always trying to keep me focused. But here I am getting this follow-up show to week 2, and I will have the preview show for week 3 because week 3 is going to be exciting. And it's not going to be the snoozer that Tune Up Week 2 was. So let's just go down the list first. There were a handful of games that are worth discussing. Ohio State 70 handling business over Grambling 70-0. Penn State 34, FIU 34. The reason why I'm not going through the statistics, it's not worth it. LSU 23, Louisiana Tech 7. This was a game I debated talking about because, as I said, LSU does have a interesting matchup coming up this weekend, and we'll discuss it. As well as Brad's Bulldogs struggled with an Austin Peay team that I'm sitting here wondering, what? And I'm going to make a note about this, Brad, because needless to say, we have not talked about this at great length. But I have on this show. Nate Frazier, 14 carries, 69 yards, 2 scores.
Bruh.
How many times do I got to keep telling you, Georgia not being able to run the ball is going to be huge, especially with their matchup coming up this weekend. Number 5, Miami handles Bethune-Cookman, 45-3. And Mike Gundy should have kept his mouth shut. I guess what he was saying is that Oregon's able to open the checkbook with an unlimited waterfall, and he was basically preparing the Cowboy faithful for what was going to happen. Oregon 69, Oklahoma State 3. Number 7, Texas 38, San Jose State 7. Clemson 27, Troy 16. This is why Clemson fell in the rankings. I mean, you do not. This was a game that Clemson was in the hole. And I don't know, from a team that I was convincing you guys and many of us in the media were trying to convince that Clemson, with everything coming back, Cade Klubnik wasn't even the best quarterback in this game, let alone the best quarterback in the country. As Troy quarterback Crowder was 19 of 31, 223 yards and a score. Very underwhelming numbers for a kid that's supposed to be the Heisman Trophy finalist and quite possibly the number 1 overall pick. Number 10, South Carolina 38, South Carolina State 10. Sellers is once again underperforming. Like I said, all of you are overinflating these SEC schools, as we will see later on. The Illinois Duke game was interesting, but like I said, Mensa for Duke had 334 yards and 2 touchdowns. As I said, he was impressive. If Mensa can get some help around him, he's going to be a good quarterback. He really is going to be a great kid to watch perform. As Illinois blows out Duke in Durham. That's what makes this game so different. A lot of people are saying, well, Illinois this and Illinois that. I'm only going to say that for this reason, because needless to say, Illinois is a team that actually traveled to Durham to handle this. Florida State 77, East Texas A&M 3, Texas A&M 44, Utah State 22. That's a cause for concern if you're Aggie fans. Alabama 73, University of Louisiana Monroe, nothing. Tennessee 72, East Tennessee State 17. Indiana 56, Kennesaw State 9. Texas Tech 62, Kent State 14. And number 25, Utah 63, and Cal Poly 9. As I said, we're going to go back and look, but before we tell you the outcome of one of these games, I want to let you know that Brad hit me up, and he basically, in a nutshell, he and I agreed that we thought South Florida was going to put that thing down on Florida. Now, I don't know if Brad was hoping that was going to happen or if he knew that was going to happen, because I was sitting there watching so many analysts sit there and they just went on and on about what Florida didn't do. And I'm just getting so flipping annoyed with it, because I'm like, dude, are you serious? Are we just going to sit here and talk about what Florida didn't do? Granted, I'm not happy that Billy Napier is going through what he's going through. But the reality of it is, even if he wins this game, I know a lot of people are going to say, you got to win the games you're supposed to win. Now it comes to a point where it's like, I don't know. It's not looking very good. And as I said, we're going to get into it, but let's get into the number 18 Oklahoma Sooners upsetting the number 15 Michigan Wolverines, 24-13. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This game really peed me off. I don't know if it did you, Brad, or anybody else out there, but it really peed me off, and I'm going to tell you why. Because ultimately, the Sooners should have blown this game wide open. And I'm hearing people saying, ooh, Boomer Sooner, Boomer Sooner. Let me go ahead and clear this up for you right now, Boomer Sooner Nation. You're overreacting. You play a team like Michigan in your backyard. This should have been a beatdown. Oh, yeah. Listen, if you guys have watched my show enough, you know how I feel about being the home team. If you're really that much better, this is a beatdown. And I'm sitting here listening to people say the exact opposite. Like, home field does not matter in college football.
Bruh.
It's the one sport it matters the most. Maybe outside of college basketball. You cannot underestimate just how valuable home field is. And I'm really, really tired of analysts really just excluding it, or just excusing it like it doesn't exist. Like there's just nothing there. But John Mateer was impressive. Do I think he's worthy of being a Heisman candidate? 21-34, 270, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And the throws he missed that would have put this game out. Believe it or not, John Mateer is a lot of the reason why they were able to put the Michigan Wolverines out, and he was also a lot of the reason they couldn't put them away. He had 74 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. I think for a guy that has the ability to throw the football like he does, he runs too much. And I know a lot of people are going to say, what? And you got guys like Deion Burks who had 7 grabs for 1-on-1. I was really impressed with this kid. I really was. And you can call it what it is. I think he's very impressive. Mateer, that is. And I think this is a football team that's going to go very far. I think ultimately that in this SEC play. Now, they've got a pretty decent schedule coming up, but they've got some really rough ones coming up. Mateer's going to be the difference maker in this game, in this season. But I think also of whether his chemistry with Deion Burks is going to be exactly what it needs to be. Can it be go to another level? Because Mateer wasn't great, and they still won this game, despite the fact they were trying to give it to him. The Wolverines, on the other hand, when you look at Justice Haynes, who had 19 carries, 125 yards, and had that long 75-yarder, but outside of that, it was pretty much nothing. And you talking about 50 yards tops the rest of the game. 18 carries, 50 yards. So, that 6'6" is a little bit inflated. So, at the end of it all, Michigan's going to have to figure something out because Bryce Underwood was 9 of 24, 142. Don't get me wrong, Brent Venables deserves some credit, but I'm not going to sit here and give Venables so much credit that we forget that Michigan's offense was stagnant at best, and of course they were in a hostile environment. So I'm not going to be too hard on the Wolverines, but overall, not overly impressed. Donovan McCulley was impressive, had 3 grabs for 91 yards, including a 44-yarder. But in the end, I see Oklahoma being a pretty good team, not overly crazy about this victory. You're at home. You're supposed to win.
It's official. You suck.
Moving on to mine and Brad's upset special. I wish I would have. Well, I wouldn't deleted the show. It was deleted accidentally, you guys. But Brad and myself exchanged text messages. If you want to see it, I'll put it up there in the comments. But me and Brad basically called the South Florida upset while everybody else in the country was looking around, looking silly. And I'll tell you why I called this, and I'm pretty sure Brad said the same thing, was many people didn't pay attention to the Boise State game. And the reality of it is people are going to say, well, Ashton Jeanty, yeah, you got a point. But the truth of the matter is Boise State's still a pretty darn good football team, and South Florida's supposed to fall. But the reality here when we look at this game is DJ Lagaway was supposed to be that dude. Byron Brown looked like the best throwing quarterback in this game. When you look at 23 of 36, 263 yards and a score. And then you have to factor in his running ability too, which is what he was supposed to be able to do. And he had 17 carries on 66 yards. So not only was he destroying Florida, and like most SEC schools, Brad, quarterbacks with good mobility. And then you take the fact that Lagaway didn't do anything. Of course, Jaden Ball had 93 yards on the ground for the Gators. And everybody was talking about, oh, the Gators outrushed them by 5 yards. That's not what got me. When I look at this game, I go to the overall stats. Now, here's the thing. Brad and I always talk about winning at home. Okay? The Gators won the time of possession by almost 10 minutes. But here's the key element. 11 penalties, and they had a costly turnover. Then you go back up. They outpassed the Gators. The first downs were dead even at 20. Fourth down efficiency was that big fourth down efficiency was huge, and it was 1 for 1 for the Bulls, as well as 0 for 0. The Gators didn't attempt one. Total yards, Bulls outgained the Gators by 36 yards total. So when I sit here and I listen to these analysts sit here and they just like, this team is just not disciplined. And this team just doesn't have this. They don't have that. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm really just shaking my head like, how about maybe South Florida just brought the A game? I mean, look, you walk into Boise State and beat them. That's not, just a walk in the park. So why are we sitting here even debating South Florida's prowess? We're sitting here basically in a nutshell saying, I'm sorry, that game was in Tampa. I'm sorry, my mistake. But you're talking about a team that handled its business against Florida State and then Boise State, and didn't just win the game. They smoked them. Absolutely smoked them. You don't walk into somebody else's I mean, look, when you win at home, you're supposed to win at home. This is why when the games like the one we just talked about with Oklahoma, aren't they all that impressive? Michigan should have had the doors blown off of them. But I'm done with that game. But I'm telling you guys straight up, everybody's talking about Florida. This is a wake-up call. Florida is going to be a nightmare for teams that they play, and so is South Florida. Miami. Bulls 18, Florida Gators 16. This should automatically get these guys in the top 25. And you guys will see the travesty that goes into that when I do my follow-up rankings show. Probably the big snoozer of the week, besides the tune-up games, Iowa State 16, Iowa 13. Now, I'm just going to say it like this. Iowa, if you ain't going to make that much of a concerted effort to be somewhat creative on your offense, just take 3 knees and kick the ball back.
It's not funny, Ed. Hey, shut up!
I'm just saying, I could put my nephew's high school team out there and they could put up a better performance than your offense. This is just, I mean, dude, y'all look like a daggum team from the 1930s when Notre Dame was just inventing the forward pass. Bruh. Look at this, y'all. 131 total yards running the football and 83 yards pass. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I got this right, because the reality of it is, people, when you get sacked, you lose yards passing the ball. So they had 83 yards passing. So yeah. And then you have 1 interception thrown. Bruh, I'm going to say it like this. This game was close because Iowa has one heck of a defense. They do. But listen, Iowa, if you can't recruit like Notre Dame and Miami when it comes to offensive linemen, and I'm not talking about the linemen, I'm really not. When it comes to linemen and running backs, you have to find some way to get one of these transfer quarterbacks to come to your school. You gotta. This was a pathetic performance. I hate that this was one of the 12 o'clock games. Ew. Shut up.
Hey, shut up!
Brett Eskelson had 2 grabs for 39 for Iowa State. Gabe Burkle had 3 grabs for 33. And Benjamin Brahmer had the only receiving touchdown for Rocco Becht. And Rocco Becht was pretty good. He had 11 yards rushing on the day to go with his 134 passing and 1 touchdown pass. Not overwhelmingly great performance by the Iowa State Cyclones, but you expect that with the Iowa Hawkeyes, not considering the game was in Ames. But this is a rivalry game, so it's always going to be one of those games that the level is going to be high and the stakes are higher because of the bragging rights. But number 16, Iowa State goes to 3-0, and Iowa, Lord have mercy. And probably one of the most exciting games, but I did not catch this whole game. I caught bits and pieces of it. But it was one of the more exciting games of this weekend. The double overtime thriller of number 17 SMU falling to Baylor 48-45. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, SMU was this, that, and the other. Okay, well, yeah, we all wanted SMU to be that team. Even I did. I was upset that SMU failed. I knew Baylor had a good football team and that they were going to compete because there are a couple of analysts that said they could make the college football playoff. I don't know about that, but this performance, as I've told you guys many times, if you can beat a team in their building, you have my respect. I don't sit here and give teams like Oklahoma who upset a Michigan team in their building. That doesn't get a lot of credit from me. Gets a little bit, but not much. But let's go ahead and look, because in my opinion, Kevin Jennings did everything he could. To me in this game, he reminded me a lot of Cam Ward, except Kevin Jennings did a lot of this last season when he was superhuman. And you look at Sawyer Robinson, who was just as good, even though you look at SMU and they used a lot of Kevin Jennings on carries to sell the running game, which TJ Harden had 19 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including a long 40-yarder. I love what SMU's doing, but they got to figure out some way to stop somebody. But I will say this. Do I think Sawyer Robinson might be the real deal? Hard to say, but I got to look at it. One of all these quarterbacks people are talking about, they're not talking about this guy. Robinson had 6 carries for 20 yards, but then he had 440 yards passing and 4 scores on 34 of 50 passing. Leading the charge for the receiving corps for Baylor is Josh Cameron, 9 grabs, 151 yards, 2 scores. Ashton Hawkins seconded him up with 10 receptions, 145 yards. And then Kobe Prentice had 4 grabs for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 5'11 speeding senior. But, the thing I look at this game and I say, as much as I love quarterbacks that are, like Jennings, which he's not going anywhere. That one loss will hurt them a little bit. You're going to see Baylor in the top 25. And Brad, if you disagree with me or any of y'all disagree with me, make sure you leave something in the comments. I'd prefer you do it right now. Pause and make a comment. But yeah, I think SMU's not going anywhere. I know people are going to say, well, he lost to Baylor at home. And I know I'm a prime candidate when I say when somebody loses at home, that's not good. I get it. But I ultimately believe that SMU is going to get it together. Their schedule's not overly tough. When you start looking at the fact that Baylor did turn the ball over twice. And yeah, it was just a situation, in my opinion, that I think SMU's defense has got to get it together. And then Baylor's that good. I'm just going to go out there and throw it down there. But then when you look at this schedule that they have, it's an underwhelming schedule outside. I only see maybe Syracuse and Clemson giving them a hiccup, and maybe Louisville. But as I said, this was a game, in my opinion, that I thought SMU they had, but I think at the end of the day, Baylor outplayed them. So I'm not going to sit here and just say that SMU blew it. I think Baylor took the game. You can't just, there's more to just losing a game than blowing it. So. But then Baylor's also got a very favorable schedule to go with as well. So listen, we can sit here and go back and forth, talk about what Baylor didn't do, what Baylor did, what SMU didn't do. Listen, I hate SMU lost this game because I love Kevin Jennings. But unfortunately, some of the mistakes and holes that weren't filled in the offseason, it bit them again. And Sawyer Robertson exposed them. But let's not forget about Bryson Washington for Baylor, who had 31 carries, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he wasn't a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. But number 17, SMU, who's officially out of the top 25, sorry I had to give that away, falls to Baylor as both teams finish up going to week 3 at 1-1. And arguably the most overblown daggum game, and I'm tired of hearing about it because now everybody's trying to give Mississippi State love. Mississippi State 24, the number 12 Sun Devils 20. Everybody's losing their mind talking about, oh, they did this, they did that. Look, let me help you out with something. Mississippi State gave up 251 yards on the ground. And the truth of the matter about that is when I sit here and I hear people sitting there talking about, oh, Mississippi State was this, that, and the other. Look, Arizona State dominated the football game. There were a couple of throws that Blake Shapen made. They were just average plays. They just didn't tackle the football, and they being the Arizona State Sun Devils. Look at this. They dominated the time. It's at 37-57 to 22-03. Penalties, they had 2 more, but the 2 turnovers Arizona State had, huge, monstrous. I'm not fixing to sit here and give Mississippi State all that credit when Arizona State basically gave them the game. I don't understand how analysts can sit here and watch the same 2 different games, see the same type of instances occur, but you see 2 different results. And I'm referring to the Florida USF game. No, because you're biased. And this is why I did this show, because I'm tired of the SEC bias. You're sitting there saying, oh, yes, you better look out for Mississippi State. SEC dominance is back. This game was in Starkville. And not to mention, Arizona State gave them. How many times have you ever seen a team that dominates by almost 200 yards rushing the football win the game. I mean, lose the game. How many times have you ever seen a team do that? Dominate by 200 in the running game and they lose. I might see if I can't find a stat on that because that just hit me. There ain't no way in the world you outrun a team by almost 200 yards and you lose.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
So all this talk about Mississippi State needs to stop. I'm just going to keep it in perspective because they ran the ball for 66 yards. And then it's like, well, they had more yards than Arizona State. Well, some of that was because Levitt was bad. This was supposed to be the one spot that came back. Dude, this dude's possibly supposed to be a guy that they take in the NFL draft. I don't remember who made that statement.
Dumb shit! Dumb shit!
Anyway, I'm not selling most on what this Mississippi State Bulldog team has got. They could go out next week and lose, and they probably will. Mississippi State 24, Arizona State 20. Big upset of the week, and that puts Arizona State out of the top 25 for now. And then the game that, in my opinion, was just like, okay, so why did this team not fall? Ole Miss 30, Kentucky 23. And I'm going to say it like this. Do I think they should fall? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because we've seen so many. The Ole Miss Rebels have not dealt well with going on the road. And we all know Kentucky is a pain in the when you face them in their building. They are. They just are. That's how they are. Not really a large, big group, a large number palette to discuss, except maybe Kawan Lacey. Kawan Lacey had 28 carries, 138 yards on the ground and a touchdown. I mean, surprisingly, the Rebels ran the ball extremely well. For a team that seemed as though they were just absolutely dominated well, not necessarily dominated, but the time of possession was extremely deceiving when you see a team that runs it for as much as they did. They were on the field a lot, but they had a total of 455 yards to Kentucky's 359, and yet here we are. But the 2 turnovers, guys, how many times have I told you, Mr. CeeLo's keys to victory? When you are on the road and you're the favorite, you got a small window of turnovers. No matter how powerful you are, how much more powerful you are than your counterparts on the opposite sideline. And Kentucky proved this again. 2 big turnovers by the Ole Miss Rebels. They only win the game by 7. And the truth of the matter is, when you look at this football game, if Kentucky could have mustered up some form of offense, this would have been a scary game. And the reality of it is Simmons has got to be better throwing the football for the Ole Miss Rebels. Wallace was big, 4 grabs for 117 yards, but yeah, this was not one of those games that I was excited about. But I will tell you this, Lane Kiffin better get it shaped up, because realistically, when you watch this Ole Miss team, I don't see a team that's scary. I really don't. And they've got a big matchup coming up this week, even though this team is visiting them. They've got a couple of months to get together. A couple of weeks to get their act together before the meat of their schedule comes. And they've got 4 back-to-back that are going to be exceedingly tough. And needless to say, they can't have performances like this. And Lane Kiffin going to be finding himself out of that college football playoff again. But let me know what you guys think about tune-up week 2. And let me know what games caught your attention. Which games do you think I was too harsh on? Which games do you think I should re-critique? Should I go back and talk about Georgia?
Nope.
I thought so. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, you guys, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you're aware of when I put out another show. Also, make sure you go to my Facebook page of the same name, Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Make sure you join the group so you guys can interact with guys like my buddy Brad, as well as go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can catch up with all the shenanigans during the season that I will be caught up in. Want to give a big gab out to my nephew, Will J. My brother and his family will be attending the South Carolina Vanderbilt game this weekend, courtesy of None of Your Business. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.